There is an article in the warrant, which I think was given short shrift by the Finance Committee, if I understand it,
All right.
to provide that the town manager be elected rather than appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
There are a couple of articles related to that topic, Dan.
And I just wondered what your feeling was about it, even though I suspect it's going to have a tough go.
I think if you want to approach the way the government's structured, I don't think that's the right approach. In other words, the town manager, the way we're structured, is probably not a good position to be elective. It's like a chief executive type job, but it doesn't have the same sort of policy implications that are left to the board. In other words,
it's not fully a mayor's job.
It's not a mayor's job. No, it's not.
How would you distinguish that?
Well, I think if we had a mayor, the mayor would probably have I would expect they'd be part of the Board of Selectmen or commissioners or however we structured that. And they would, or I think they ought to, in that sense, they're expected to be much more a part of the policy-making process. And they ought to participate as a voting member. I know that you've had some ideas about that, and there are lots of other ways to structure it. Whether the town's ready for that yet, I think clearly they were not in the past. And, there's some sort of Nantucket, I'm not sure they're traditions, but a commitment to town meeting that I admit I appreciate, Dan. And we've talked about this before. Right. So I think the town meeting is as democratic as you can get, and the structure we have now has some imperfections, but it works pretty well.
But the town manager's contract, the current contract, which I believe is up for renegotiation this spring,
right.
Has a supermajority provision in it, I believe, to the town manager cannot be removed without 4 of the 5 selectmen voting in favor of that. Is that really a good idea?
Well, I'm not...
in terms of accountability of anybody in a position.
It's an interesting problem. I don't know that it's a good idea, but it's in there. And as a practical matter, the contract is 3 years. Right. So if you're renewing a contract, certainly you have an expectation for the foreseeable future that you're comfortable with the incumbent. Mm-hmm. So if that deteriorates during the course of a 3-year, there's not all that much time left to the end of the contract, Dan. So at which time then it's up for a regular vote and can be renewed or not. And it doesn't take 4 votes if people want to change their mind. So, I found myself in a position of going along with that primarily for that rationale that, it would be different if you had a 15-year contract, but you don't.
Unless the town manager, and I'm not suggesting she would, got involved in a Christie Gate.
Yeah, or any one of us got involved with a Christie Gate.
Right.
It is interesting. Anyway, Christie Gate is a
whole nother story. Except my friend Mr. Rafter at the airport says it happens in New Jersey all the time.
I lived in New Jersey. I've been here 23 years as a year-round resident, but I did live in New Jersey before, and the institution I was involved with was in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and Elizabeth is an old line New Jersey town, and so I had some not totally close but reasonably close contact with the administration in the town of Elizabeth, and New Jersey can be unique.
In a lot of different ways.
Right.
But anyway, that's off topic.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you?
Well, I think continued water access is important to me. I was involved with a citizen who asked about the access on James Street, which is it's on Holbert Avenue and access to the harbor, and it was interesting. That led to some phone calls to the chair of the Roads and Right-of-Way, to the planning director. What really is the situation with those access points? And I think going through that, I found there seemed to be an acceptance that they might be abutters' ways, but it's more complicated than that. And I think sort of pushing ahead, it helped bring the articles to town meeting to clarify.
To the special town meeting
town meeting last fall, where we can move forward on a taking, make an arrangement with the abutters to the ways, guarantee public access forever on those roads. So that's an example. As a community, we need to keep working on that. Obviously, Dan, there's no secret I'm concerned about the Sconset Beach and the beach itself there. I think hard armoring is a very important item. It tends to make sure the beach does erode up to the hard armoring. I think town, being the owner of a significant portion of that beach, should have an ability to have its say on that. Licensing does not give the town meeting a right to do that, and I think we'd be better to ask permission to use our property rather than just, at the moment, 3 selectmen moving forward there.
Just beginning to sound like Mrs. Stover.
Well, think about it. All the, I call it the indicia, but the usual parts which represent ownership, which is an ability to build on property, which is an ability to see it erode more quickly if that's the case. I think those deserve the approval of the owner of the property. And the owner of the property are the citizens of Nantucket. So, yeah, Mrs. Stover has one point of view, but I felt this for some time. Licensing, for example, Jetty's Beach, we license the concession for the life of the contract, and then it's up for bids again. It's not forever. This kind of a program, we've been licensing the beach there since the early 90s, and that's been 20 years. So I think it's time that we found a way to communicate with the citizens.
One last thing. Old South Road, I know the Board of Selectmen doesn't have a direct role in that process, but what would you like to see come out of that, or how would you like to see it end up?
Well, first of all, we don't know how it's going to end up. I think one of the things we want to maintain as a community is sort of a sense of size, perspective, and development should occur, you want to say with Nantucket in mind, if you will. And I do believe that. So whether the current design is doing that in all the ways it could, I'm not sure that's the case yet. I think they have to convince me a little more. To raise the size of the building cap from 20,000 to 45,000 on both sides, even though on the Valero side there's a deed restriction to 38,500 square feet. You could have, for example, a citizen mentioned to me that Trader Joe's in Hyannis is about 20,000 square feet. I'm not sure that's the case, but let's assume that. So it's not automatic that you have to have a supermarket of the size they're talking about.
Actually,
there might be lots of ways.
Stop and Shop. The Stop and Shop currently is around 24, isn't it?
But I think they're going to 37 or something.
But I'm thinking of kind of the context of the Stop and Shop versus Trader Joe's.
Right,
Trader Joe's is a lot smaller than the Stop and Shop.
And it's interesting when you go downtown, and all the citizens I talk to, when they have the opportunity to shop at the Stop and Shop downtown, they love it. That may have to do with the fact that there aren't as many folks there right now, but the size, I haven't heard anybody, upset with the size of that.
It's
building.
Manageable.
Yeah, and so there's some Nantucket issues here. But the town meeting is going to have a chance to decide. The Civic League had quite a good forum on it, but after that, citizens are going to have some more information, and by the time of town meeting, I think we're going to have some interesting conversations.
Well, if I can get in a plug here, I hope some of the people who are involved in this on both sides will themselves agree to come on the show.
Well, I think the more information and access to the plans, the better off the community will be. Makes it easier for them to make a decision.
Rick Atherton, thank you very much, and
Dan,
good luck.
Good. Thanks for